We'll get started. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, everyone. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad. My name is Ishraq, and I'm the organizing director over here at Empower Change and a part of the steering team here at the NoMuslimBanEver Coalition. For many of y'all joining for the first time today, the NoMuslimBanEver Coalition formed in response to the Muslim ban back in 2017 under the first Trump administration. 8 years later, we're still committed to fighting the ban again. The coalition comprises of the Asian Law Caucus, Council of American Islamic Relations, SFBA, Empower Change, Muslim Advocates, and the National Immigration Law Center. You can find more information about us at NoMuslimBanEver.com. So why are we here today? Last night, y'all know the White House announced a travel ban that will go into effect on June 9th, impacting immigration from 19 countries. We anticipated that this would happen since Trump and his team mentioned this as soon as they entered office. And it just so happened, and it sounds like there's a lot of Muslims names on this call. It was announced on the eve of Eid al-Adha. As we know, Yom Arafah is wrapping today and Eid will be tomorrow. So for today, our team will be breaking down exactly what the ban means, who's impacted, who's exempt. Then we'll open it up for some Q&A and end with next steps on what we can do to collectively fight back. So to start us off, we're going to hear from our executive director at Empower Change, Linda Sarsour. Linda, I'll hand it to you.
Thank you so much, Ishraq. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us on very short notice. And I know that as I'm looking at the many folks that have joined, many of you are working on so many issues, and there's so many executive orders and so many legislative fights that are to had and so many marginalized people that are being attacked. And so to have you all join us here to respond to this Muslim and African ban is just very heartwarming for us in this moment. As Ishraq mentioned, this is not a surprise to us. This wasn't something that we weren't already expecting. I think that when it becomes real, it sinks in that this is actually going to impact real people, real humans, and real families. And there will be thousands of families that will be separated because this administration gets to decide who is worthy of entering this country and who is not worthy of entering this country. This issue, this idea of deciding who is worthy of entering or not is interconnected with the many issues that many of us are working on across the board when it comes to immigration and racial justice issues and access to healthcare and who gets access to services in this country, who gets access to democracy. And so we see this as interconnected, and we are looking forward to providing you with the guidance, with the tools to be in solidarity with the many families that will be impacted by this ban. I think, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but sometimes I think about why didn't Donald Trump do this early on? Why didn't they just throw it out there on the first day like they did the first time around? And I think part of it is that in this iteration of this administration, they want to bombard us. They want to divide and conquer our communities. They want to overwhelm us to the point where we feel like we can only focus on those that are directly a part of the communities we come from. And we're going to reject that. And we're going to continue to work across the board with communities across this country, with different issue areas, and to stand in solidarity. The NoMuslimBanEver Coalition, and the name, again, is a name that we resurrected. It's a coalition we resurrected all the way back from 2017. So imagine having to literally dust off a whole coalition to kind of start over. And we understand that from the ban, and you've seen the list of countries, and Yasmin and others will talk about this. This is very specific. It is targeting Black and brown immigrants to this country. It is targeting Muslim majority countries as well. And so we know what the intent here is. We will not be distracted by this administration. We are going to stay focused. We're going to continue to do this work, and we're going to continue to do this work together. So I'm just grateful for you all to be here with us today. We will continue to put out updates. We will continue to invite you to webinars. We will continue to provide resources. Some will be provided here on this call. And just want to say thank you again for joining us on such short notice. I'm going to punt it back to you, Ishraq.
Great. Thank you, Linda. Right now, I'm going to just share some recorded remarks from California Congresswoman Judy Chu, who is one of the lead co-sponsors in the reintroduction of the No Ban Act. So just bear with me for 1 second as I get that ready here. Everyone should be able to see this, and we will.
Country safer. Hello, I'm Congressmember Judy Chu from California's 28th District, and I want to thank the No Muslim Ban Ever Coalition for bringing us together today as we fight back against yet another Muslim ban. President Trump's new and expanded Muslim ban to vastly limit people from mostly Muslim majority countries from entering the United States will do nothing to improve our immigration process or make our country safer. Instead, it will spread fear and confusion, cause needless pain and delays, and tear families apart. We know this because he's done it before. I still remember the day the first Muslim ban was announced in 2017. I rushed to LAX to see what could be done about 50 Muslims who were being detained for hours and with no end in sight and without food, water, or basic legal representation. The pain caused by the Muslim bans implemented in the first Trump administration started on that day in 2017 and still lingers today. And as a result of the first term Muslim bans, over 41,000 visa applications were denied, forcing these applicants to start over from square one. Applicants who had already navigated through one of the world's most comprehensive vetting processes were told those efforts meant nothing. Families were needlessly separated and forced to miss milestones like weddings, funerals, graduations, and births. This happened to my constituent Ismail, who was separated from his wife and newborn daughter in Djibouti for 7 months because of the ban. I will never forget the pain in his voice as he waited for a chance to see his wife and daughter again. Even though President Biden did the right thing by rescinding these bans on his first day in office, which of course had no negative impact on our national security, we see how easily President Trump was able to revive these policies through executive action. That's why we must change the underlying laws that give him this power, and why I partnered with Senator Coons, Representatives Nadler, Beyer, Omar, Tlaib, and Carson, and tireless advocates like yourselves to introduce the No Ban Act. Our bill will reform immigration law so future presidents can't abuse their authority to suspend the entry of people to pursue xenophobic or bigoted ends. The No Ban Act would ensure that if a president wants to ban a group, they would be required to do something simple: provide evidence. The bill would also prohibit discrimination on the basis of religion and create a waiver process for individuals to show that they do not pose a threat to the United States if they are denied entry. Muslim bans are unfounded, unfair, and un-American. Together, let's work together to stand up against President Trump's Muslim ban and pass the No Ban Act. Thank you.
So we'll be sharing a link to that action to pressure Congress members to pass the No Ban Act throughout the call. But in interim, I'm now just going to hand it over to our political and legislative director at Empower Action, Yasmin Taib.
Great. Thank you so much, Ishraq. And thank you so much to all of you for joining us. As Ishraq mentioned, I'm Yasmin Taib. I'm the legislative and political director at Empower Change Action Fund. And as Ishraq and Linda have noted, we also serve as one of the co-chairs of the No Muslim Ban Ever campaign. And this is really a coalition of more than 200 organizations representing a very diverse community of Muslim, Arab, Middle Eastern, South Asian organizations and allies in progressive faith, human rights, and immigrant sectors who came together in response to the first Trump administration's persistent efforts to ban individuals from Muslim majority countries as part of its larger xenophobic white nationalist agenda of exclusion. So like many of you, all of you on this call, we unequivocally condemn Trump's latest executive proclamation, which he issued last night, imposing new entry bans or restrictions on nationals from 19 countries, the vast majority of which are Muslim majority, African, Asian, and Caribbean nations. This immigration and travel ban would fully restrict and limit the entry of nationals from the following 12 countries: Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, the Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. And then in addition to that, the entry of people from 7 other countries, Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela will be partially restricted, according to the White House proclamation. Though, as our speakers will discuss, it's pretty much a full ban as well. This sweeping ban, I mean, as has been noted by our colleagues, is a dangerous, dangerous expansion of Trump's original Muslim ban and is rooted in the same bigotry, xenophobia that again animated Trump's prior policies. It also comes on the heels of this administration's racist announcement that it plans to revoke visas for Chinese national students. The proclamation relies on broad accusations of terrorism and non-cooperation, the same racist rationales used to justify the first iteration of the Muslim ban in 2017. This time it goes even further by adding countries like Haiti and the Republic of the Congo, perpetuating a pattern of targeting Black and brown immigrants. This is racism, xenophobia under the guise of a national security policy. So again, Trump campaigned, as we know, on not only reinstating the Muslim ban, but expanding it. As a result, as Linda noted, countless families across the US, including mine, will be separated from their loved ones due to a ban rooted in hate and racism. These discriminatory immigration and travel bans are unconscionable and will only hurt people. As we've seen, this administration is advancing its authoritarian agenda through a cruel, inhumane, and unconstitutional crackdown on our rights. We're in a constitutional crisis, whether it's this new ban through the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act to unlawfully deport immigrants to El Salvador, termination of TPS for scores of communities, the South Sudan visa revocation, or the termination of status of countless international students, and the targeting and abduction of international students advocating for Palestinian rights. Scores of policies rooted in white supremacists and again, his threats of kind of authoritarian policies against our communities are just unacceptable and unconscionable. And to ensure that our communities do not face these threats of family separation, xenophobia, and Islamophobia through the implementation of yet another discriminatory ban by Trump, we need to do, as Representative Chu noted earlier, to continue to pressure Congress to take action and pass the No Ban Act that was reintroduced by Senator Coons and her earlier this year. The No Ban Act specifically limits executive overreach by preventing the president from abusing his authority to restrict the entry of non-citizens into the U.S. under Section 212F of the Immigration and Nationality Act. As again has been noted by my colleagues already, our communities will vigorously fight this administration's discriminatory travel bans and other hateful policies driven by its white supremacist agenda. I now want to turn it over to my colleague, Soumaya Waheed at Muslim Advocates. She's going to provide an analysis of exactly who will be impacted and not impacted by these bans. So Soumaya is a senior policy counsel at Muslim Advocates. She's a policy expert with over 15 years of experience in progressive legal and policy advocacy at the local, state, and national levels. I'll turn it over to you now, Soumaya.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. Hi, everyone. It's a really tough day today after months and months of tough days. And so appreciate being in community with you all. So I'm going to actually start with going over some of the exceptions and the people who aren't banned, even from the 2 tiers of countries that Yasmin went over. So for all the 19 countries, these groups of people are not banned. So folks who were already granted a visa as of June 9th, 2025, green card holders, so LPRs, lawful permanent residents, people in the US who have already been granted asylum refugee status or granted removal of withholding of removal or protection under the Convention Against Torture. People who have dual citizenship, who are traveling on the passport of a country not listed in the proclamation, certain diplomatic visas, athletes and coaches traveling for the World Cup or Olympics or other major sporting events, and then people traveling to the US to get a green card as the spouse, unmarried child under the age of 21, or parent of an adult over the age of 21 who is a US citizen. Certain children traveling to the US for the purpose of being adopted. People from Afghanistan on special immigrant visas that were given to people who have worked on behalf of the US government. And then the people traveling on immigrant visas for ethnic and religious minorities facing persecution in Iran. All right, and that is all listed in an explainer from the National Immigration Law Center. Shout out to them for getting an explainer up so quickly after this proclamation. So those are some of the exceptions. And then there's the two tiers of countries that are banned. And the difference between them is really kind of minor. So for the countries who are in the first list of the 12 countries that are basically completely excluded, that applies to people traveling on any type of visa. And that is from the 12 countries that Yasmin mentioned, which is Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. All right, so that's any kind of visa. And then there's the second tier of 7 countries, and the people who want to travel on immigrant or certain temporary visas would be excluded. So this means tourism and business travel visas, student visas, and exchange visitor visas. And that's from the countries of Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. So I know that's a lot to kind of cover, but that gives you an overview of the kinds of restrictions that are going to be in place as of midnight, June 9th on Monday. And again, like, we know that there might be a lot of detailed questions, and we want to hold space for that in a forthcoming webinar where we can analyze this more deeply, see a little bit more of how this is implemented, because even with the categories of people who are not banned that I went over, we do expect there to be challenges at the border. And so we want people to feel prepared. And so we're going to put information for our different organizations for folks who are concerned and have specific questions that they might have, or concerns. You know, we've seen concerns from folks about coming back from Hajj right now, and other concerns that people might have. So we know that there might be a lot of complicated cases, and so we want to be able to refer people to attorneys that can give them those very detailed advice.
Great. Thank you so much, Samaya, for that. And I know that a lot of folks will likely have some questions, and we're going to have about 20 to 25 minutes at the end for Q&A. And now I want to turn it over to our dear colleague, Diana Konate. She's the Deputy Executive Director of Policy at African Communities Together. She works to ensure that the interests of African immigrants are considered in federal immigration policy. Prior to ACT, Diana worked on the Hill. And Diana will walk through the impact that the ban will have specifically on African communities. I'll turn it over to you, Diana.
Thank you, Yasmin. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on the call today. Yeah, I mean, I think as has been stated, we were not shocked about the ban. We were all expecting to see this ban come out. And for our part, we have been having conversations with our community members and trying to prepare folks as much as we can, or as much as we could, in the event that certain countries would be on the ban. I think that what was surprising was to see the expansion of the countries, and to see the number of additional African countries that were added to the ban. When we talk to our community members, what comes up for folks is a concern about the fact that there will be family separation. People will not be able to see their families who are currently, come to the U.S. to visit for various events or just to see family members, and just real disappointment in our community about this ban. I think that now that we've seen different these additional countries on the ban, our next steps involve making sure that those that we are in communication with those communities and bringing them into this fight against the travel ban, and making sure that our communities are front and center, pushing back against not just this ban, but a lot of or all of Trump's and his administration's xenophobic, racist, Islamophobic policies that impact our communities. So thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Sharon. I'm going to turn it now to my colleague, Ishraq.
Sure. So I think we're at the space for some Q&A, and I can already see that folks have been asking some technical questions in the Q&A feature. So feel free to drop that. And for our panelists, I can read out some of what I'm seeing here, and then maybe folks can answer. And I know, Sumaya, you also just mentioned you didn't cover exceptions for folks in the US. Maybe you could lead with that while I kind of...
Yeah, sorry. There's a lot to cover. So first of all, there's also the immediate family immigrant visas. I don't think I covered that. So immediate family immigrant visas are not subject to the ban, but you have to have clear and convincing evidence of identity and family relationship. And the proclamation itself says, like, in parentheses, EGDNA, which I have is concerning, given that it seems to indicate that you need to share some biometrics with the administration, but that's something that they've been doing to immigrant communities. So that's one also in the exceptions. And that's just people who are not subject to the ban. And then there's case-by-case exceptions that the proclamation provides for. That is for individuals who can establish that travel to the US would advance a critical national interest involving the Department of Justice, including participation in criminal proceedings as a witness, or would serve some other US national interest. That's very, very narrow. And so we don't expect that to be a particularly fruitful route. And then there's for individuals who are already in the US, this is not applied to people in the US. This is for people who are seeking entry as of January 9th, Monday at midnight. So just wanted to make those things clear.
Thanks, Amaya. So some questions that I'm seeing, and I think this may be related to the exemptions that you were talking about. Can the panelists address some of the language around religious minority communities and persecuted communities in countries like Iran that may be accepted from the ban? I may have missed if you addressed that part, but that was a question that was asked here.
I believe they are exempted, right, Sumaya?
Yeah, it says for Iran.
Yeah, there's a carve out for them, and this is the bill. Yeah, that's the legislation.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's if you are from Iran and not Muslim, you can come kind of weirdness. So that's all I can say about that.
Two questions that may be related here. Can you confirm if spouses and children of LPRs are exempted? And how about people in the US have asylum applications pending? What about family petitions which have been filed but are not approved yet?
I'm trying to look at that for LPRs. So the immediate family immigrant visas are IR1, CR1, IR2, CR2, and IR5. I need to look into the spouses and children of LPRs. I feel like that's a different classification, but again, I'm not an immigration law expert, so I'm the deep bench here. So welcome others who might have expertise on that.
Yeah, for our attorney friends that are in the chat, feel free to drop some of your responses there. I know part of this today was just, addressing what was happening with the issuance of a ban. But I think Yasmin alluded to it, that we will be having or as Sumaya alluded to, us having a subsequent webinar where we'll be able to kind of have better equipped to answer more technical questions here. Are there any resources about the ban in Spanish? I've been getting questions from Venezuelans and Cubans. Sumaya, I see you nodding. Are you aware of some resources?
I believe that is in the works, and so we will share that out once it's ready.
Got it. Can the panel share any next steps on advocacy that they're planning? Any plans for direct action or demonstration in the coming weeks? So I invite Linda to kind of share her insight on that. And then, we had mentioned that, we're pushing for the No Ban Act, but I'll open it up to y'all to share some of our roadmap going forward.
So today, congressional leaders, for those that were either part of the press conference or were able to tune in, they did have a press conference at the House Triangle. And then in terms of other potential actions, I mean, we do encourage local activists, grassroots to organize their own actions, particularly, in the next few days and the next week or so. I mean, we're obviously not going to have the same sort of pushback that we did in the first, second or even the third iteration of the Muslim and African bans that came out during Trump's first administration, with the thousands rushing to the airports. But I think, for any organization, any grassroots group, any local activists that are able to coordinate local actions in your community, I would highly encourage that. And I'm going to turn it to Linda now to see if she has any other insights.
There will be a presser on Monday in New York City. Obviously, New York City always being an important city because of the fact that it's the media capital of the world, and also because of just the igniting of the first movement around JFK Airport back in 2017. So there will be a Monday presser at 12 p.m. There is also our friends and colleagues at Muslims for Just Futures and Undocumented Network are circulating a solidarity letter, basically folks to sign on together, kind of opposing this ban. And there is a link. If our folks, Zara and Abdullah, can pull the link, Preeti shared it in the comments. And if folks would like to sign on to that from now, the deadline is on Monday. So there is going to be more opportunities, of course, specifically around some of the education, because I think remember, this just dropped yesterday. And I just want to say and commend the folks at the NoMuslimBanEver Coalition. It was literally 2 a.m. On my side of the country. And folks were hustling all night, reading, trying to bring as much information to you all as possible. There are going to be unique situations, and we want to make sure that we give you as accurate information as possible. So we will make sure that in the future webinar, you also hear from others that are being impacted by this ban, our friends in the Haitian community, other folks from some of the countries that were listed, because people are going to be impacted in unique ways. And we want to make sure that their voices are centered too. But as more opportunities for actions come out, we will be, of course, in touch with everybody. And if you haven't joined the NoMuslimBanEver Coalition, please go to NoMuslimBanEver.com, join the coalition. There you can get up-to-date information from us, again, on actions, on legislative opportunities, on town hall meetings that may be happening in your area, and webinars, etc. So please go to NoMuslimBanEver.com and sign up to join the coalition if you are not already part of the coalition.
Great. Thank you so much, Linda. I'm going to answer one of the questions. I apologize if it was already covered. So the Iranian exemption related to those so the question is the Iranian exemption related to those covered by the Bloomberg Amendment? And I was going to say, yes, I believe so. That's what the carve-out mirrors. And then there's another question about other potential advocacy efforts that we're working on. So we are planning on circulating a kind of movement-wide or sign-on statement in condemning the immigration travel bans to kind of be on the lookout for that as well. And feel free to reach out to me and Samaya if you have any questions about that.
Yeah, and we'll also be coming out with other ways for you to engage your state and local officials to have them speak out against this and other anti-immigrant attacks. So we'll keep in touch about that as well.
Yasmin and Sumaya, I'll invite y'all to kind of see if there's any other questions that y'all may be able to pick up from the Q&A. Give you a few more minutes to that, and then we'll kind of go towards next steps.
I see a question, Ishraq, about what if we're going to be able to share this recording so people can share it with their colleagues. Yep, that was a question from Rami. Yes, Rami, we will send that out to all folks who are registered so you can share with your colleagues.
And related to that, you know, we will be we'll set up toolkits. We'll, you know, just because the ban had dropped last night, we were just trying to make sure that we were getting as much information as possible out to folks today, but anticipates some toolkits on talking points, on like some creative actions that can take place that will be coming out. So the best way to stay in touch with us is going to the NoMuslimBanEver.com page and, you know, signing up there, and that way you'll be added to any email list around updates for actions and recommendations, talking points, etc. With our team.
So I see Preeti is sharing the statement, and it actually relates to something that somebody asked about, which is connecting between racial justice orgs and immigrant rights orgs. And let me see where it is. I've lost the question, but it was about connecting different kinds of movements around this ban. And I think that statement is a great way to start the conversation. So thank you, Preeti, for sharing that, and to Undocu Black Network and Building Movement Project and Muslims for Just Futures for creating that statement. We'll also have another statement, like Yasmin said, to pressure Congress. And we'll again be coming out with more actions to target state and local officials to also stand up for immigrants and communities of color that are being targeted by this administration nonstop.
So I think maybe it is a good time to transition into just like kind of next steps and close this out, Yasmin, or are there any other questions that you're kind of running through that may be appropriate to answer?
Yeah, there's one last question that was just posted by Maggie. And she's asking, what do you think was the biggest takeaway from the 2017 ban that has prepared us for this one? So, I mean, I can try to answer, and then I'll turn it to kind of Linda and Samaya and others as well, and Diana as well. So we get this question a lot on panels that we've been doing around the bans, and in terms of like what we learned, what were some of kind of the setbacks, learned lessons, things that we would do differently. And on every panel that we've discussed this, I've kind of, you know, uplifted the fact that we need to continue raising personal stories. This is something that I remember was a challenge for us during Trump's first administration. And I remember it's because we were just scrambling to do so many different things. And there were times when our allies on the Hill wanted to talk about the bans on the House or Senate floor, and they wanted stories to be able to share. And we just kind of didn't have that. And we had to scramble. So that's something I would really highlight because, you know, that is the best way we can continue to ensure that this issue is highlighted, especially with members of Congress, by continuing to let them know how it's impacting their constituents. So that's one thing. And I think, again, with folks on this call who are kind of active in the mobilization advocacy around the bans during Trump's first administration, what we noticed was, and I think Linda mentioned this, is because there was so much going on, right? Again, it was just, he was attacking all of our communities at the same time. And it was very difficult for us to be able to effectively respond because we were also kind of fighting 1,001 other battles at the same time, right? And we started this massive cult like movement where we had faith, I mean, women's organizations, progressive, right? Like every organization you can kind of think of, LGBTQ community like organizations. We're part of this movement. We're part of the rallies and protests we were organizing at the White House. But then after a while, after the various iterations of the ban that Trump issued, it was just difficult to continue to get the grassroots right and engage. I think people started getting confused and exhausted, right? So I think that's something we need to obviously grapple with. People are very tired, are running around fighting, so many different fights. But I just want to again like highlight the need for the personal stories, and I'm going to turn it to Diana, Samaya, Linda to see if they have other things to add.
Sorry, my camera froze. I'm just going to say this in a more general way as an organizer myself, because I am not a brilliant, fabulous lawyer like Sumaya and Yasmin. I think that the thing that I learned from the last Trump administration to this Trump administration is that you don't put your foot off the gas pedal. And what we did was during the 4 years of Joe Biden, and not specifically just on the ban, but in general around issues of immigration, we kind of took our foot off the gas pedal. And I think it's important for us that what I learned in the last decade is that we stay consistent on our issues, we stay consistent on centering our people, regardless of who's in the White House. It does not matter who the political party that is in the White House. Our people come first every time. And the idea of winning is winning all the time, not just winning under any particular administration. So when our fight isn't just a fight against Donald Trump, it's not just a fight against a particular administration. Our fight is against ideology. Our fight is against exclusion. And that is a fight that our people have had in this country. Some will, from the days of its founding. So that's what I learned. And I hope that's what everybody here learned, that regardless of where we are in the fight, that when 2028 comes here, that we don't just stop what we're doing all of a sudden for immigrants and migrants and refugees and other marginalized people, because all of a sudden we have a different party that potentially could be in office. So that's where my eyes stay, and I hope that's where our movements are.
Okay, so folks, I think we'll just transition into next steps, and I think it's been what's been mentioned on the call. Right now, we'll share some of the links that were mentioned to everyone that was attending, as well as the recording, so you can disseminate it across your networks. And then just anticipate from the coalition, like another webinar in the coming weeks, with maybe more legal staff to answer technical questions and kind of have more recommendation and guidance for what actions and what responses we would recommend for folks on the ground. So I think our staff will just be dropping some of the 3 links that were mentioned at the very least here in the call. And then I recommend folks to just go to NoMuslimBanEver.com and to sign up over there to kind of to get the latest updates from our campaign. And is there anything else that I'm missing? Yasmin, Sumaya, Diana, Linda?
No, in the follow-up email, I will also give you the information about the NYC presser that we're doing on Monday, because right now we're just thinking about a location to have it, but that could be part of the email that we send.
Sure. And I saw that question in the chat. For folks that are in New York City, there will be a public presser on Monday, and then we'll share that in the email.
Yeah, just wanted to thank everyone for showing up at this time. Again, this is a time when the administration and folks are trying to divide us, and us showing up together means we are stronger, and it might be a long haul, but we're doing it together, and that's how we're going to win.
And Eid Mubarak to all those who are celebrating.
That too.
And to my colleagues too.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.